and Honorable Johnson Osoi, the Speaker for Kajiado. And it is only happened by pure coincidence that it came to happen to materialize and crystallize at this time. Otherwise, this is a process we have been following. We have gone through all the processes, the vetting, the auditing of the whole process. And what I would say, Trevor, is that this is an injustice that has been cured at this time. And for Arnold, I would want to assure you, Arnold, is that CAF is a trade union and it fights for the welfare of its members. And after BBI and in the next generations, in 2050, in 3,000 years, CAF will still be fighting for the welfare of members. So this is one of the wins that we have gotten as CAF. But these ones will continue, and we have a very elaborate agenda on how to continue pushing for the welfare of our members. On public participation,
this one is a BBI,
I would wish to say that public participation, before you condemn, it is good to understand where these county assemblies like Siaya are coming from. Like Siaya, I am aware about their Civic Education and Public Participation Act. It's very clear about the 7 days that they are supposed to do these processes. And this law, when it was passed, it was subjected to public participation to the people of Siaya. And they allowed it to pass the way it was. If you looked in the daily newspapers of national circulation, Siaya actually advertised for public participation. The same case with the Homa Bay. And I can assure you, as I stand here, as the chairman of the County Assemblies Forum, that these counties have followed the laws that are supposed to be applied in civic education and public participation. The other issue we should appreciate is that this is a popular initiative, that this is a document that ideally is coming from the people. And when we go for civic education and public participation, we are actually going to confirm with the people that actually this is what they gave to the Haji Committee, and that this is what happened at Bomas 1 and Bomas 2. Otherwise, this is a popular initiative. And even when assemblies are given 3 months, actually in Parliament, when it is a parliamentary initiative, that is when you require the 3 months. When it's a popular initiative, because the people have already made their input, Parliament has no limitations. They can even pass this constitutional amendment bill even in 7 days. Therefore, I believe there is a lacuna that the timelines given to the assemblies are not the same timelines given to the National Assembly. And therefore, we need to harmonize this. If National Assembly is left with the open-ended timelines, then the same should apply to the county assemblies. Therefore, I think this is something that was just picked from the Constitution, that we shall require 3 months, when actually in a popular initiative, it should not take that, because even Parliament has no timelines. Therefore, what I would want to say is that there is no bribery here. And our conditions, when we went to Haji Committee, we were very clear on our 8 issues that we wanted addressed, and they have been addressed. The other issue of the car grant, those are issues we have talked to everybody who has cared to listen to us, and it was not one of the conditions.
What about the timing?
It was not the conditions.
I can be able to help my chair. Just people need to see something. The reason why the timing seemed to be coincidental, the chair can confirm that it was the first time the county assembly members were having a one-on-one sitting with the president since he came for the second term. In our 2 summits that we've done in 2018 and in 2019, 2020 was not successful because of Corona. We never had a chance to have one-on-one. So it was just coincidental that the Mount Kenya group of MCAs were able to have a direct sitting. And as a by the way, they raised the issue and said there's a pending matter that you promised as a person. And that's why you could see even how he said, I remember the issue. But that aside, Trevor, I just needed to add something very critical, which I think we are losing. The content of the BBI. Here, you are talking about the fight for the soul of the country in a simple case. Is our problem the laws, or our problem the will to implement the laws? One of the reasons you find opposition towards the BBI is because a right-thinking member of society, a patriot Kenyan, is asking a question that have we, in essence, fully implemented the 2010 Constitution? Have we kept the faith? Have we fought the fight of constitutionalism in Kenya? And the answer, if we are to give a scorecard for the Jubilee regime and the current president, is a big no. And that is why the concern should be, why then must we do the referendum? Lastly, more importantly, most of the agendas being pursued under BBI can best be captured under parliamentary legislation, including ward development. In fact, I'll surprise Arnold by telling him almost half of the county assemblies have legislated on ward development. And we are seized of the reality that the county assemblies don't implement. We just ring fence the money. Nandi County Assembly, for example, we have our own Community Development Act that talks about 30% of development money be divided among the wards. That would give around 20 million, more than what BBI is offering 5%. It's only that in my county, the governor and his team has not seen the sense, and that's why, for example, in Nandi County, we are literally being dragged behind. But if you look at our neighbors, Uasin Gishu County, Elgeyo Marakwet County, the two have been very successful in legislating at the county assembly level. So what BBI is just doing is basically adopting what is already in existence. In fact, CAF, when I served in CAF the first 2 years as an executive member together with my chair, one of the demands that was made was, why don't we legislate a single legislation at the national level that gives guidelines to the individual county assemblies? If you look at the bills that I have proposed under the BBI, including prompt payment, those are legislative proposals that do not necessarily need a referendum. And that has been the question. And that is why I keep saying, let us not lose the argument. And when we go to public participation, we have to make it clear to the public all those options and tell them.
But speaking of argument, Kipto, you are the county speaker for Nandi. You're supposed to be neutral on this matter, as you seem to have taken a position.
I have not taken a position. In fact, I'm actually conducting a civic education. If then that means my commentary on something that is so glaring appears to be taking a position. As a speaker, I will not take a position. But as a speaker, I will speak the truth. As a speaker or as a citizen, a card holder who will vote if a referendum come to be, I have to make my point clear. And in fact, I keep telling my residents or my MCAs that my job as a speaker is to guide them. It does not preclude me from giving a strong commentary.
And
that's why I was just
skew the verdict, because at the end of it, you're the one.
Those are the concerns. Anyway. I'm sure as a country, we always want to hear both sides of the coin, because one of the overreaching statement has been, if you are a Tanga, then you are anti-BBI. If you are Kieleweke or pro the system team led by the president and the former prime minister, then you are for the BBI. We forget in that conversation, why do people oppose? There are reasons for that.
So Ambrose Koech is asking, simple question, ask Joshua Kipto, are they passing BBI or rejecting it? I am Ambrose Koech. He says it's Ambrose Koech from Kabujoi in Nandi County.
Kabujoi, that is in Aldai sub-county Nandi. I will give him a simple answer. We will come to him to hear his voice, and we'll go back to assembly. If he says we vote no, then we'll vote no as per his opinion.
Okay.
Thank
Agnes?
Maybe to ask the resident of Nandi County that maybe he needs to start sending Joshua SMSs to implore to him to pass the BBI bill, because if it passes, Nandi is going to be getting 11 billion from onset of the implementation of that bill, because right now it's getting 5.3. Maybe, Trevor, to carry on from the conversation, what Joshua has said about whether or not we have fully implemented the 2010 Constitution. I think constitutional review processes are not meant to be glamorous. They are not meant to be like the end game. And the BBI bill seeks to maybe look at all of those loopholes that were there in the 2010 Constitution. And maybe, for instance, just to pick one issue, you see the 2010 Constitution of Kenya laid the fundamentals of devolution. It made sure that the devolution is taken closer to the people. And for that very purpose, you saw that all the 47 counties got about 15%. And with those 15%, people were employed. ECD centers were built. We had road structures that were expanded, both ground and tarmac. We had manufacturing plants. Right now in Makueni, we have in Kitui, we have Kikotech. In Makueni, we have the mango process processing plants. And if we stick to the 2010 constitution, it means that we will continue with this 15%, and we already see that what 15% is doing. But the BBI is coming to say that, see what 15% is doing, can we get 35%? And with this 35%, we mean that we are going to see even more accelerated development through to the ward level. And if we stick to the 2010 constitution, the women of this country have not been included in positions of power, positions of political authority, political offices, and this BBI bill comes to cure such issues. Yeah. If we stick to the 2010 constitution, we would say that we are robbing off people 5% of the county allocations. So it is time to grow this country and to start reviewing our constitution and to grow it and to say, where are we going as a country, and not sticking in the past. Okay. There's nothing wrong with improving a document that guides this country. There's nothing wrong with checking whether or not where our issues, why is it that we are not fully implementing it. That's why we are proposing legislative proposals to maybe to seek to address these issues in parliament. We are suggesting administrative solutions to address these things administratively, and that's why we are also bundling all of these things into a constitutional review process and seeking to maybe answer all of those questions Kenyans have. Why is it that we have not fully implemented the 2010 constitution? And by doing so, we are pushing for even greater development and accelerated development within the people and maybe to the grassroots. Trevor.
Okay. Maliba, are we simply throwing away the baby and the bathwater? What is wrong with having 35% to go to the counties, and yet we've seen how devolution has been working?
But Trevor, just before coming to that, it's important that I think we forgot as a panel to condole with the people of Bonchari for losing the MP this evening. I think the nation is, we actually in a fix. Today we lost two very influential members of parliament, one in the Senate, and now we have one from the National Assembly. Just condoling with the members of people from Bonchari and their family. But you were talking about throwing out the baby and the water. Just quickly, even before I respond to that, it's important that I get back to Chair and the Speaker on the other side. The Chair says ably that BBI came from people, and he also added that it's also popular. It's true. The former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the President Uhuru Kenyatta are people. To that extent, the Chair is right. But on the question of whether it is popular or not, it's an open question. It's not a popular initiative. It came from people, yes, two people we know. So fine. But whether it's popular or not, that is an open one. I saw the Speaker saying that he has not taken a position, but while I heard him speaking, he clearly has got a position. So the Speaker of Nandi County Assembly has taken a position by denying that he has not taken a position. In short, he is at a place where he is at a place. You know, sometimes when we were young, when we were young, we would actually say we are going to cast the ballot, but we will count the votes that will win before we cast the ballot. So if you hear him very well, if you listen to him, and he is not different from the others that are also supporting it, these guys have already decided that they will pass BBI, the reasons notwithstanding. So everything else is just PR. Now, talking about water and the bath and the baby and everything around that analogy, I have said, and I need to repeat, that there are a few issues that really can only be taken care of through a referendum, for example, that will actually call for a BBI. And for me, at the top of the stack is Article 27.8, because the guys in Parliament have decided that 5 times they will actually bring down that bill. So that is one important bit that really should actually be taken care of. But again, you really have to laugh at the points somebody like Aggie is making, and you know too well that she's a very learned person when she says that when we pass BBI, then we will not be doing 15%. The Constitution as is does not stop. It actually just sets the minimum. It doesn't stop us from going up. The same way, the Constitution does not stop the current people in power to bring at least a third of women. Let's talk about appointment, for example. What has stopped the president today to probably not just meet the third? He can actually do 40. Why will he insist on remaining? That every time we have actually done a board, you realize that apart from the public service ministry, everywhere else, you realize that we do the bare minimum. Why are we giving women just a third? What stops them? So those are excuses. And like I said, very few things in BBI really deserve to be there. But so as to get all of us and bribe us into thinking like everybody has been bribed to support BBI. Those who are opposing it, like I said, are only doing it in solidarity with some other forces, not because the people in Baringo, for example, want that money Agi is talking about. They would really love if that money is going to be increased. But they are only voting, number one, to expose Gideon Moi as a soft underbelly. Number two, they are doing it in solidarity with the Tanga Tanga movement. They are not doing it because they don't want. They didn't. I can tell you that if they asked the people of Baringo substantively on the issues that quote unquote BBI is going to bring money, do we throw it out or not? It will go in. So I still insist that BBI is an important process. Yeah. The problem is that it's like rainwater flowing. It has carried all manner of stuff, and that is how the designers and the architects of BBI thought to bring everybody on board. They have got the BBI, yeah, and then the BBI before the BBI, and there's likely to be a BBI after BBI. That's where the problem is. So I have decided, and I actually need to put this, I need to say this, that if you were to subject the BBI document and the thinking and the explanations, even when you hear it from Agi and the others, you subjected it to an intellectual test, or even just a basic logic and reason test, you will be intellectually violently opposed to that document. But in politics, sometimes reason and logic doesn't just have to flow. Like I've told you, in BBI there are quite a number of good things. So as to avoid to throw out the water and the baby, then a number of us actually have to forget the reasoning bit of it and to look at all these other things that shouldn't be there, yeah, and then support the document, number one, for purposes of ensuring if this is what will actually ensure that Article 27, 2/3 is taken care of, then we actually are going to support it. It's politics. You cannot win everything. Okay. And the people who are opposing it will be the first people. These guys are not saying no to the car grants. They've already received the car grants. If those MCAs from Kakamega would get the 500,000 shillings they're asking for, if they are given, these guys will still receive that 500,000 shillings with Thanksgiving, and they will still vote no. Okay. So I think
I'll give you a chance to respond.
There was a direct response.
You have been mentioned. Yeah, the two of you will respond.
The main issue, Trevor, yes. Arnold is talking too much about the negatives about the BBI, yeah, but he has not said exactly what is wrong in the document. And he has not said that the issues that are being addressed in the BBI, that they are not constitutional enough to be in the BBI, because there is a test for constitutionality, yeah, of issues that should be there in a constitutional document. And again, my main concern would have been that there are gains in the 2010 constitution that are being taken away by the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020. So I would be when Arnold talks about intellectualism in addressing the BBI Constitutional Amendment Bill, I would want him to say exactly what we are taking away from the 2010 Constitution and what should not be in the current Constitution. When we talk about the 35%, the minimum now is 15%. We know in some countries that the money that goes to devolution are even up to 45%. What is wrong in putting the minimum to be that 5 and not 15? So that nobody will ever take it below that 5. You know, we never predict what the future will be about. But when that issue is anchored in the Constitution, then at least everyone will be safe. So therefore, when we talk about Constitutional Amendment Bill, I believe there are other undercurrents and other underlying issues. Yeah. But then we should, for the posterity and for the benefit of our people, we should be able to go to the document and clearly pinpoint what are the weaknesses and the strengths of this document, and not talk in generalities. Okay. Arnold is a person who has read that document, and from the time we came here, he has been talking about how we are bribed, whatever has happened. He is not talking about what is wrong that we want to give to the people. Okay. And therefore, that's my problem.
All right. Arnold, I'll come to respond. You mentioned the two of them. Let them respond first.
Arnold is engaging in intellectual dishonesty because something surprising. He seemed to agree with my sentiments, but has a problem with who makes the sentiments. Because I am a speaker, he seemed to have the monopoly of poking holes at the BBI. Myself, I'm trying to go above by asking a simple question. And Trevor, if you look at my questioning, it was, we can talk about all the good and the bad. Why then did we go to court to ask of a bridge between the two, that give us a chance to approve what we accept and disapprove what we think does not make sense. That tells you that we've been centrist. We have not been extremist, that we want to throw the baby and the bathwater, as you say. Importantly, we focus on the issues being raised and approving. In fact, let me remind you the assumption that where I come from is just blindly following the deputy president. People forget that it was the deputy president himself in Bomas, as well as when he brought the caucus of MPs who raised the issues and acknowledged even those good things that even I'm sure the pro-BBI group did not know about. So that tells you there is goodwill to accept the good things. But the question, and this is the question that the country keeps asking. In fact, people have forgotten there's a group called Linda Katiba who've been raising issues, purely issues, about why now? Why the BBI? And importantly, where is the will? If we never had the will to implement. And I wanted to just give another fact, because my good friend talked about Nandi being given 11 billion. A simple thing. IBEC sat 3-4 days ago, gave 37% of the total budget to counties. Meaning, even as we speak, under the current legal regime, it is still possible. What this country lacks is basically political goodwill. If indeed you believe in devolution, it can be. It can be done. And that's why I keep saying solutions. In fact, I always say long-term solutions, which I think I would want to agree with my chair, that it's a plus if you have the 35% legislated in the constitution. Yeah. But by then, we also need to build a culture of believing in ourselves, that legislatively, at the county and the national level, the same can be done. Lastly, and this should come out very clearly, when I speak and I say that these issues must be spoken about, it is because it comes from the people. If we ignore the public views, if we ignore the popular will of the people, the same referendum will be taken back to the people. You can imagine a case whereby I come from Chemase, and I go to Chemase in my village called Chepsol in Chemursoi, and the people there say they don't agree with BBI. And then my member of county assembly goes and votes for BBI. When we will come back to the same people, they'll be even more eager to vote against it because they said, we made our point. So public participation at this level is basically to merge the interests of the public and the MCAs, so that by the time the Nandi County Assembly votes on the bill, you would want the country to read the mood of the Nandi County. That is the mood of the people. Remember, our core mandate as county assembly is to represent, not to represent our interests, but the interests of the people.
Agnes, because I've run out of time, you get to have the final remarks.
Yeah, Trevor, I think there's a danger of maybe losing the discussion on this document by maybe reacting to what Arnold Maliba is antagonizing. And I think what Arnold Maliba is not telling the viewers, and one question I'd like to pose to him, if he's opposed to the 35%, let me ask him if the BBI document is proposing that the Ward Development Fund, and there is a 5% kitted that goes to the Ward Development Fund, is he opposed to that? And maybe if the people of Matungu would be very grateful or understanding to his opposing of that. But I think, Trevor, given this chance seated here, I would like to maybe call out to the members of county assemblies and ask them to debate in a very professional manner, with respectful manner, and maybe critique the bill by its merits, and maybe pass it, because there are many benefits that there's like what Ndegwa put on the table about the 35%, what we've mentioned. We are talking about the Ward Development Fund. We are talking about the opportunities for the MCAs to be the CECs, and that this is what they'd asked for. We are talking about full gender parity. We are talking about the opposite gender, that the governor will need to consider a female or a male, an opposite gender rule. We are talking about the issue of the MCAs who are nominated into parliament, the gender top-up. They will have to vie themselves. And as a young woman sitting here, Trevor, I think this is one of the reasons I'm supporting the BBI document. And as a young person, I am also championing the issues of economic empowerment that the BBI is proposing, of having incubation hubs, of having business empowerment centers like the Huduma centers, where they will, young people will walk in and get information about the tenders that they can get. I'm also supporting the BBI document because I believe it will put more money in the pockets of young people with the prompt payment bill that is being going right now in Parliament. There are talking about paying young people in a period of 60 days when they have already serviced this contract. And Trevor, I am also supporting this bill because we cannot wait to have a stable and more unified country, and BBI is proposing an all-time solution to the chaos that grapples this country every time that we have an election, Trevor.
Okay.
Well, last
one line.
To respond.
You were asked whether you support the 35%.
All the three people spoke to me, Trevor.
Yes.
Please.
One line. Summarize it. Yes,
to the chair, I actually pointed out the things I support in BBI. I talked about the 2/3. I am not convinced about the winner take it all, how 5 people are going to take care of that. That has not actually won me back. But I need to say this. I have actually been deconstructing the mechanics of making BBI. That when BBI came out, the problem of BBI is actually just threefold. That's number one, when the architects came up with BBI, they synonymized BBI with 2022. Number two, they made BBI to be an anti-Ruto machinery. And number three, the team that was marketing BBI were known crooks, political crooks, people who have caused trouble in other places. So the marketers, the product could be good by and large, but the marketers actually had problems.
So you have a problem with the marketers, not the product.
With 35, I am asking a question. What has stopped anyone from giving us 35? Nothing. It's lack of political.
Oppose it, do you?
So just like the same thing, the Constitution put in Article 27 to ensure that Parliament legislates, puts in place a legislation to ensure that women are represented.
Yeah.
The men we have put in Parliament, because those are the majority, have simply refused 5 times. But on what BBI is doing it, BBI is actually trying to solve problems, but it's actually solving problems by creating more problems. Just a last line. We have got nominated MCAs. I'll give you an example. In Nairobi, we have got a number of nominated MCAs who caused trouble by voting against the NMS budget. They were de-whipped. They can't even go to the county assembly, even when they have got court orders. Now, we want to bring in more women by nomination, not through, so that we continue controlling them from political parties. That is tokenism. So, whereas BBI is trying to solve these problems, the mechanics of doing BBI is wrong. And
so
the
you
people,
have a problem with the process,
and the people who are doing it, a number of them are also wrong, because some of them are actually the problems.
All right.
That they are trying to solve. How, if the chair is a problem, how he solves himself is actually very difficult. Okay. That is what I'm actually trying to deconstruct out there. Otherwise, I will still insist, BBI has got good things.
All right.
Yeah.
Chair, one line.
Yes, one liner. I would wish to say that I would appeal to the people of this country that actually we are all in agreement that this is a constitutional movement. And the only question of departure is whether we should vote once or whether it should be multiple. But everybody is agreed that there is something good in the BBI document. Okay. And I think that as Kenyans, and because this is a document that is supposed to serve us for a generation, that let us look this document, the code letters of the document, interrogate them, and be able to address the same with the truthfulness and honesty that it deserves. Okay. Knowing that this document, we are not making it for ourselves. Okay. We are making it for ourselves, for our children, and for future generations. Okay. That's the only way that we are going to be able to move Kenya forward.
Chair, for clarity purposes, there are people asking that you were impeached as the Nyandarua speaker. Can you just clarify that?
Actually, Trevor, is that I was never impeached. And as I have said previously, you know, there was a time I was said that I was impeached even when there was no sitting. There was not even a maze, there were no staff in the assembly, and the people just came and broke doors into the assembly.
You got stay orders the first time.
And they sat in the darkness for 10 minutes and decided they had removed the speaker.
So you got stay orders.
I got stay orders.
And the second time,
then the second time they came and they decided that they had impeached me, despite very clear orders of the court. Okay. The court Justice Professor Goge had told them that the law must be followed, and the threshold to remove a speaker is 75% of all the members. They come, and the 75% of the members of Nyandarua County Assembly are that. Okay. They come and vote 26, and they decide again they have voted out Dego Wahome. I've gone to court and I've said the clear wording of this order and the law and the constitution is that you're required to vote 30 to remove Dego. You have not been able to achieve that number. So actually I'm in court, despite the conservatory orders, I'm in court to have the court declare that that motion was defeated, because it was actually defeated.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Honorable Ndego Wahome, CAF Chairperson and Nyandarua Speaker, Honorable Joshua Kipto, Speaker, Nandi County Assembly, Arnold Maliba, Executive Director, Open Future Hub, and Agnes Ibarra, Policy and Governance Consultant. Thank you so much for having this discussion. I'm sure we'll have it again at some point, and thank you all for all the feedback that you've sent through. Let's do this again next week. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us. Good night at 11:30. Good night.